The prison is cold and gray, as is the world outside it. The guard leads me past rows of empty cells. Cracked paint forms spiderweb patterns on cement walls. Our footprints leave marks on the dusty floor. I struggle with the box in the bag, which barely conceals the pickaxe. Not long ago, I'd never have gotten these things inside, but no one cares anymore. You sit framed in sallow daylight, as drab and colorless as the walls, your face turned to a grimy window. You look thin, weak, sick. I can almost see the metamorphosis that brought you from then to now, the age layered over youth. How long have you waited for me in your cage with your empty eyes and your empty smile? I put the box and the bag down and pay the guard. He turns and walks away, disappearing back into the shadows. Hello, Albert, I say quietly. You don't move. Your face is lifeless and empty, as are your hours. I kick the box. I brought these back to you, all your scribbled ramblings. No reaction. We're only feet apart, but there's a river between us, a river of years that has swept lives and light along with it, a river we can never cross. I'm not surprised by your silence. The guards said you wouldn't speak, not out loud anyway. They took your pen and paper away once, but you only wrote in blood. A fly lands on your nose. You don't notice. I rustle through the box. Your spidery handwriting crawls across hundreds of loose papers. These have sat in my attic for years, gathering dust below stars that have forgotten you. Why do you still send me poems, Albert? Silence. Is there anything left behind your lifeless eyes? I look around, taking in your world. Echoes, shadows. The bars on the window cut black lines through drab, pale skies. Outside, pigeons roost on the windowsill. Factory smoke curls up towards colorless clouds. A siren wails in the distance. It is discordant, eerie, and beautiful at once. It's peaceful here in a strange way. You don't deserve peace. I glance at the dog-eared paperbacks on your shelf. What are you reading? Benjamin Franklin, Vonnegut, Shakespeare? Have you grasped something of their wisdom there in your cage? Nothing. I'm talking to a ghost. I sigh. It wouldn't matter if you did. Any understanding you have has come too late. I stare at you, looking for the person you once were, the golden boy who led us from sneaking cigarettes under the bleachers to starting fights at punk rock shows is gone. You're a shell, a husk, faded and lifeless. A rat scurries across the floor. It occurs to me that, of all the souls in this place, only it and I have come here deliberately. But you knew I would visit eventually, didn't you? I crumple a page up, toss it through the bars. It bounces off your head. I wish I could say it was all you're doing. You did brainstorm the whole thing. You were always the reckless one. In middle school, you stole candy from the corner store, let the Welch's cows out, burned the Jones shed down. In high school, we snuck out, drove Ken's brother's car too fast, stole cassettes. We all ran wild and stupid then. We were all angry. Some of us had more reason to be than others, but we hadn't realized that yet. We smoked our first cigarettes behind a wall of rock, huddled together against salty ocean winds. We drank our first cheap wine together in an emerald field as black thunderheads rolled in. Spent hours and days and weeks in our clubhouse smoking and drinking and talking about girls and guitars and all the things we would do, things we knew even then would never happen. The clubhouse was really just an old shed, but it was ours, a perfectly imperfect refuge against the world that was waiting to swallow us whole. I can still feel those days, even now, smoldering in my soul. At the time, I thought you were brave. Now I see it very differently, at least when the kaleidoscope clears. You never see the choices you make until you look back at them later. We had already been molded by then, broken down in an endless drab hell of uniforms and gray walls, by a colorless world of bark commands and shiny boots marching in lockstep. You couldn't bear it, could you, to be one of them, the lines of uniformed drudges that went before us, faceless numbers passing into cold steel buildings, workers filing into factories, accountants plodding into offices, soldiers trudging into war. We knew what was waiting for us, the crushing weight of debt, the pain of stagnancy, the bitterness of boredom. We sought to escape these terrors by any means necessary. There's a slicing pain to the moment that you realize you're nothing. We were still within range of normal life back then. We could have sprouted into bankers, factory workers, or counselors had we even realized that we were at a crossroads. But the light inside us was fading even then. We were young enough to appreciate youth, but old enough to understand regret. I saw that hubris in you that night when you turned your face in your rage to the dark mansion on the hill and started ranting about revenge. You filled the gloaming with your beautiful madness, and we laughed it up like dogs. We went along as always, too numb, too dumb, too empty to do anything else. The funny thing is, you did end up a nameless, faceless number in a cold steel building. There was never any way back for us from that night, was there? the one that split our lives, the one that turned you, Albert, into inmate 4B364. I pull a yellowed paper out of the box. A prism breaks through darkness. Dissolve into numbers, my dear worms. Drown all unauthorized thoughts in disinfectant. I let my hand drop. What are you trying to tell me? At last, you turn your head. Your voice is cracked and cobwebby. You've forgotten how to use it. Echoes, you say. The thoughts have flown away. My throat seems dry suddenly. So you are in there. Hello, Roger. Words are thick and heavy on my tongue. Do you know what's happening out there? Your voice is empty, as are your days. Everything, nothing. I feel nauseous again. The painkillers are wearing off and the ache is returning. You knew this was coming, didn't you? Why else would you write pages upon pages about families and storms and disinfectant? I pick a letter at random. The fading, rotted wisdom of pallid kings who never wore crowns. Your words weave past dust particles hanging in the stale air. Run, run after the wind, you say, as cities fall silent. Run before the axe falls. I look down. You just quoted the last line. I'm stunned. You sent this decades ago. How do you remember? You tap your forehead. Mirrors, magnets, miracles. And then I see it, the spark of that red gold fire that once burned behind your glassy eyes. There you are, Albert. You tilt your head. Why did you come here? For answers? Is that what's important now, aside from those numbers your world succumbed to? I swallow. It's your world too, even if it's forgotten you. As you did? I never forgot, but you know that, don't you? Maybe, you say, you're not asking the right questions. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not. You face the window again. Doesn't matter. We're all just cogs in the machine. I look at the snippet in my hand. It says, we're all just cogs in the machine. My hair stands on end. Your yellow teeth move against dry lips. It's quieter than I thought it would be, the end of things. What's it like out there? I take a breath. It's been chaos and order at once somehow, mostly chaos. And yet the farmer's bones still creak in the damp, cold morning, you say. The swine still scream. Dribble glistens on your lips. My voice twists in disgust. You're drooling. You stand and walk to the bars, curl thin, dirty fingers around them. Your voice seems stronger now. I glimpse a trace of who you once were, who you could have been. The world we grew up in is dying. There's a new one being born out there amidst all the slime and screaming. Of course, you won't live to see it. You look at me. Nor will you, I think. You're pale, weak, sick. You don't look so well, Roger. Your words strike me hard, just as you meant them to. You were always good at that. Even caged, you're as wild and cunning as the rat scratching at the end of the hall. You're right, of course. There's nothing I can do but wait. The hospitals are empty. I can't get my prescriptions filled anymore, even at exorbitant rates. It's just a matter of time for me. The smile that splits your face chills my soul. But who knows, you continue. If you're lucky, one day a child will look up at you and ask where you were when the sky is empty. You point at the box. Your eyes shine bright and mad. I remember that one. You wanted sun and emerald seas, but the clocks never waited. Rage darkened my eyes. I know who this one's about. Julia. Every night in my dreams, she walks through a blue forest filled with silver streams, that orange cat trailing behind her. Pink roses blossom in her footsteps. And then I'm 17 again, looking at my old bedroom window, waiting to spot the beam of light from her flashlight in the forest. When she reaches the garden, I pull the yellow moon from the sky and offer it to her, but then the light fades and she was gone. We were growing and changing by the time Julia came into my life. Julia, with her spells and paintings and tarot cards, her fat orange cat, her poetry. Alone among us, she saw nothing of this realm. She lived in dreams and stories even then. On summer nights, we sat together in the thick branches of a weeping willow, planning a lifetime of adventures. We would take a steamboat up Mississippi, swim with dolphins in the Caribbean, teach emerald spiders how to spell. Silly, shiny dreams. She always had her nose buried in a notebook. She wrote as though she were trying to capture words and phrases before they slipped away, as though they would fly off like the seagulls we watched down by the cut. My memories of that night start with Julia. She was writing on the cabin walls in a black Sharpie. Pyramids hold their secrets as the lights die around them. She had to hunt for an empty spot to put that line among the posters and lyrics and art we had plastered on the walls. She finally found one beside that stupid taxidermy armadillo she called the armored Texas rat. Is it dark enough yet? She asked. Not yet, Ken answered. We have time for a beach fire. And so we walked down to the shore, lost souls strapped in clouds of sweet smoke. The bottle flashed in the light as we passed it around. We watched the endless waves racing out to endless skies, growing and dying at once. I was uneasy. Are you sure about this? Campfire flames flickered in your eyes. They're all off on their rat yacht for the summer. Even the brats. It'll be easy. What if we get caught? Ken asked. You won't, or we won't. You dragged on a joint, passed it along. I've been watching. I know the security code, and I already have a buyer for the jewels. We'll make millions each, enough to leave this place forever and pay them back for what they did to my mom. Julia smiled, her eyes reflecting golden sparks from the fire. They deserved it. She was wearing velvet that night, my ring shone on her finger. You held out the little squares. We took the tiny suns eagerly, waiting for the world to melt around us and show us its secrets. How many hits did you take that night, Albert? We cut through the woods, howling like madmen as we crashed through branches and bramble, heading for the dark mansion that would have been yours. Should have been yours. Leather-clad gods, punk angels raging into a world we thought we could take on. We thought we were diamonds, but we were only glass. I didn't expect the security code to work, but it did. We walked right in. You immediately took the pickaxe from its display box and began smashing mahogany bookshelves, shattering glass, destroying priceless artifacts. Be careful, I remember telling you. The acid was kicking in. The words floated slowly through the air, golden green. Can you? You screamed at me. Can you live up to their standards and still live? Hey, man, Ken said when Winswing got uncomfortably close to him. Stop it. Fuck him, you sobbed. Then you started really tearing into everything. You shattered Ladro and Waterford heirlooms, hacked their fine furniture into splinters, slashed paintings that cost more than our parents' houses combined. You destroyed the family photos of the man that you would never call father. And then Julia came back down the stairs, laughing, draped in diamonds and jewels, looking not at me, but at you. Why did you swing without looking? Where would she be today if you hadn't? Would she be standing beside me, not reduced to just in dreams? Why was she looking at you, Albert? Why did you take her from me? That scream. Was it yours or mine? I'm not sure. I only know it was a sound ripped from the blackest abyss of the human soul. Then the stick thud as she fell, the words and dreams draining from her eyes. Red liquid spilled onto marble tiles, filled with her poems and magic. You two stared at each other. Something passed between you, something that makes my stomach churn. Her eyes were ice in that final moment. I vaguely recalled Ken shouting and running after you. Minutes later, I found him lying on the manicured lawn, bloody and torn, his eyes lifeless. When the police finished questioning me, I burned the cabin to the ground. Julia's poems floated out over green-black pines and tendrils of smoke, mingling with the words of Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious. Sometimes when it storms, I feel like those poems are returning to me as raindrops. I try to capture them, but they always slip through my fingers, as have the years. Time takes everything and moves on without us. I kick the box towards you. Leaving already, you ask? That's just as well. I'm very busy. I've walls to stare at and nightmares to dream. And I didn't tell the maid to set an extra place. I don't answer. I'm getting dizzy. It's an effort to open the bag and take out the pickaxe. I paid handsomely to retrieve it from the evidence locker. It won't be missed any more than you will. I leave it in plain view, but out of your reach. It won't stay there long. I've paid well to ensure that. You'll know what's coming, but you won't know when. Is this revenge, you ask, or forgiveness? Freedom, or just another prison? Fever melts my thoughts. You choose. You sit back down, turn to the window again. Take the box. Maybe there is truth in there after all. Goodbye, Albert, I say, through ragged breaths. You don't answer. You've gone back into your shell, a ghost again. I walk away and leave you there to die. My driver is waiting to take me home. We glide past empty fields and factories, where great machines are falling silent beneath empty blue skies. Fog hovers over emerald grass that looks soft, but is filled with sharp seeds. We roll to a stop at the mansion's front entrance. Getting out is incredibly taxing. With what feels like the last of my breath, I tell the driver to take the Tesla. I won't be needing it again. I don't wait to watch him drive off. By the time I reach the top of the stairs, I'm dizzy and out of breath. The shadows inside are long and empty. I've sent the help home rich and frightened. The fire I light in the hearth doesn't warm either my body or my soul. I sit huddled in a blanket as the mansion fills with ghosts and memories. I drown them all in fine scotch. Minutes become monsters. I read your poems again. Your glimpses of wisdom are useless against a disease that still steals breath. I should take the box to the sacred place, the place where cold, pale ghosts whisper against green, black pines and salt air, the place where we once laughed and passed joints around while the Violent Femmes and David Bowie played on our boombox. But I am weak, and there are only timbers there now. In the morning, I walk down to the beach one last time. Every step requires massive effort. My breath jabs my lungs like needles. My limbs are leaden and lifeless. But eventually, I make it to the ice-cold sands. Waves gray and cold pound the black rocks. I stand there, watching them racing towards endless skies, growing and dying at once. I throw your poems into the sea. You're standing at my side suddenly, young again. Julia is there beside you, her straight red hair shining in golden sunlight. What a trio we make, the demon in his cell, the angel in her grave, the fool in his castle. Want to know something, Roger, you ask? Something not pretty? Truth is never pretty, Julia says, even when it's draped in diamonds. You open your mouth and scream, and it is that scream again, the one I can never forget. Sharp pains pierce my chest. Beneath the distant peal of the harbor bell, I stagger back to the house. The bloody pickaxe sits on my porch. It takes a ridiculous amount of energy to pick it up, to walk inside, to collapse on the couch where I gasp for air like a fish. The world blurs at the edges. Julia turns to me across the ears, her eyes filled with stars. I suppose I should fill in the gaps like a proper bard. There's something I forgot to tell you. Those diamonds, once I rinsed the blood off, were worth billions. It wasn't hard to figure out who your buyer was, your buddy John, the ex-con. My bones are cold, but they still remember. One day, not long after I bought this place, I ran into Julia's younger brother at the causeway where we used to meet. I wanted to tell him what happened, but the words stuck in my throat. I just turned and walked away. Years later, I anonymously paid his college tuition. I wonder who we would have been had we chosen differently. In the end, it doesn't matter though, does it? I faded in a mansion and you faded in a cell. Julia waits for me, wrapped in words and diamonds, beneath emerald grass that looks soft but is filled with sharp seeds. Tonight, I will burn this mansion and all of its shadows and memories and go to her. We'll dream ourselves into oblivion where an orange cat waits for us in a blue forest filled with pink roses and silver streams. And that's it.
And that was Morgan Sylvia reading from Coming Through the Waves.